What's going on, YouTube? My name's Tom Kustra. I'm a local realtor here with eXp Realty serving the Greater Toronto area. And today we're going to be talking about my hometown, the place I grew up, the place I love most, Pickering, Ontario. So if you want to know the pros and cons of living in Pickering, Ontario, stay tuned to the end of the video because we're going to be going over everything you need to know about Pickering, Ontario.
I love it when it feels like this.
Alright, so before we get into this video, let's quickly talk about Pickering, Ontario. So Pickering is the first city east of Toronto, and that's going to be where the Durham Region starts. So basically as close as you can get to Toronto and downtown within the Durham Region. The city has just under 100,000 residents and is poised for some prime growth with some of the new condominiums and all that coming here. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first pro about living in Pickering, Ontario is the proximity to Toronto. So you're basically about 40 kilometers away. So you're looking at like a 35 minute drive downtown. That's pending no traffic, of course. If you're talking about rush hour, then you're probably looking at about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending what part of the city you actually are going to. So just due to the close proximity to Toronto, you're actually getting the benefits of having the recreation and entertainment aspects of Toronto while living in Pickering, since you're so close, since most things are just like a half-hour drive away. And I know, for instance, like if you live on the west side of Pickering, it's very, very quick to get over to the Rougemount Beach or the Scarborough Bluffs. So you're getting a lot of Toronto stuff by living in Pickering. One hack I personally like to use when I have to go downtown during rush hour is parking my car at the Scarborough Town Center at the McCowan station there, hopping on the LRT to Kennedy, and then taking the subway downtown. So let's get into the second pro now. Okay, so the second pro about living in Pickering is the fact that it's one of the more affordable options in the GTA. That being said, let's not kid ourselves. GTA real estate is extremely expensive, so it's not going to be cheap. But when we're talking about comparing it to other cities that border onto Toronto, like Mississauga or Vaughan or Markham or any of those other border areas, Pickering's definitely going to come in undervalued. So I'll link up above a video I did talking about why the Pickering real estate market is so undervalued. Please remember, this is older information, so things can change. And, you know, depending on the time you're watching this video now, the prices in Pickering might have skyrocketed. But that being said, I do still feel there is a lot of value here when we're talking about the rest of the GTA. So be sure to check out that other video because I go into a lot of other details about Pickering real estate, the future of Pickering, the economic factors, and everything else that I see here making Pickering a great place to live and invest in if you're a real estate investor. Okay, so the third pro about living in Pickering, Ontario is that there's a lot of employment options. So like I said, that other video about why I think Pickering housing is so affordable will be linked up above. But that being said, just to kind of give you a quick idea of the jobs and the economics in Pickering, we have a bunch of private sector employers here. Then you have the Pickering nuclear plant. OPG basically runs that, and that provides about 4,500 jobs. Keep in mind that power plant will be closing or decommissioned at some point in the future, so those jobs are going to be lost. With that being said, going back to point number one, with Pickering being so close to Toronto, you actually get the benefit of being able to live and work, live in Pickering, but work in Toronto. It is a commuter city, and a lot of people that live here work in Toronto. So that's another reason why Pickering's a great place to live. Okay, so the next pro of living in Pickering is basically going to come down to arts and culture. So the city has a bunch of arts initiatives, including some like festivals in September, as well as a bunch of other things to support the art community. That being said, Pickering is a community. It feels a little small town vibey. I mean, if you go to the mall and stuff and you grew up here, you'll always run into people you kind of know. And then kind of going back into the whole culture aspect of it and the arts side, the Pickering Museum Village does a great job of kind of preserving the heritage and the history of this lovely city. Okay, so the sixth pro of living in Pickering, Ontario, it's definitely going to be your outdoor recreation and that whole Lake Ontario area. So you got lots of walking paths down by the lake at the Frenchmans Bay there, West Shore. You can even go on the east side closer to Ajax, and you'll be able to get pretty much across the lake. Like if you wanted to walk from Pickering to Oshawa on the Lake Ontario path, you can. Lots of other great activities to enjoy down by the water, so you can dock your boat at Frenchman's Bay, go out for a ride on Lake Ontario in the summer when it's nice. There's actually people living on houseboats, believe it or not, in Pickering. That's something I found out a while back, and it was quite shocking. I had no idea people actually live down at that marina there, but they do. And I'm assuming that real estate has gotten pretty expensive, because when I heard about this was like 10 years ago, and I think now the cost of one of those houseboats from like the 50 grand or whatever I heard back then, I can't even imagine what it costs now. Maybe something I should look into. Actually kind of curious about that myself. So I'm rambling here. Let's get on into the cons of living in Pickering, Ontario. All right, so the first con of living in Pickering, Ontario is the Pickering nuclear plant. So there's a couple reasons here, and the first one's obviously gonna be the eyesore factor. So when you're walking down in Frenchman's Bay and you see that big ugly plant there, it's not the most aesthetic thing to look at. Some people might like it if you like living in your cyberpunk dystopian future. Maybe it's pretty cool for you, but me personally, I think that thing is ugly as hell, man. But it is what it is. So that being said, it's also a con, not just aesthetically. The fact that people worry about nuclear plants and if anything bad may ever happen there. From my understanding, nuclear is probably one of the safer energy sources. I don't know why it gets so much hate, but that being said, people do kind of have that negative connotation what if like the Chernobyl moment happened here in Pickering, which I don't think will ever happen, but it's better safe than sorry. And I know I kind of panicked myself a couple of years back when they put out some alarm. It was crazy. Like everybody got one of those like Amber Alert style texts to their phone, and it said, oh yeah, there's been an incident at the Pickering nuclear plant, blah, 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 some kind of warning. I don't know what they said. Nothing really happened of it, but it was pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hopped in my car and I drove to Scarborough so I could be out of the quote unquote blast zone. Yeah, I'm nuts. I know. Just as I said it was safe, and then I'm here all worried about it. So yeah, that's definitely the first con of living in Pickering, Ontario. It's gonna be that nuclear plant. Okay, so the second con about living in Pickering, Ontario is the higher property tax rate. So Pickering has a much higher rate of tax than you would have in, let's say, like Toronto or some other parts of the GTA. So the tax rate here annually is 1.08% for your property taxes. And when you're comparing it with a city like Toronto, they have a 0.6% tax rate. So yeah, that's a pretty big difference. Okay, so the third con of living in Pickering, Ontario is it's one of those cities that has no real downtown. Like we have a quote unquote downtown area by the mall where the library is and the recreation complex and all that, but it's not like your traditional downtown. Although they are changing things, and they do plan on bringing more than 70 new towers into that area. So it's definitely going to give like a urbanization and a big population boom to Pickering. But that being said, for the time being, we still have no real downtown core or downtown area, but they are changing that, and they do have a bunch of development plans for, mixed use buildings, commercial and residential towers, as well as like a new library, some art centers, and this is all going to be accessible to the public of Pickering. So definitely going to help boost up that arts and culture vibes as well. But that being said, it is a con until that place actually happens. When they redevelop Pickering, I'm going to say that's a big pro of living in Pickering, is that you have that downtown sprawl in that booming area, and hopefully we'll get some nightclubs and some nightlife and stuff like that, because Pickering is pretty boring at times, I'll be honest with you, or it can be, depending how you keep yourself entertained, of course. All right, so the fourth con about living in Pickering, Ontario is traffic. So within Pickering, traffic's never really too bad. I mean, it does get a little busy on like Brock and White's, here and there, you know, during rush hour and all that. But for the most part, like in the city is fine. It's just going to be if you're commuting to somewhere like Toronto, you're going to get backed up because the 401 is basically the only way in and out of the Durham region to Toronto, so you're going to be competing with all those people from Bowmanville, Curtis, Oshawa, Whitby, and Ajax to get downtown. A lot of residents in Pickering actually opt for taking the GO train downtown, which makes life a little easier as it is predictable. No matter how busy the GO train is, it's still going to get down there in about 35 minutes. So let's just say traffic is definitely a concern when living here if you're going to be commuting to Toronto. If not, if you're just traveling within the city, you know, you got the work from home kind of thing going on, you should be fine. All right, so in conclusion, after looking at the pros and cons of living in Pickering, Ontario, I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons here. I mean, I live in Pickering myself, so that being said, you know, I'm pretty much a Pickering guy. Like, I'm always going to be rooting for this city. I think it's a nice place to live. You know, going back to what we were talking about in this video, a lot of the recreation and outdoor stuff. Me personally, I like Seton Hiking Trail. Definitely recommend that to anybody who's into, like, you know, mountain biking or hiking or taking your dog for a walk, whatever you want to do. Great place. So if you're looking to move to Pickering, Ontario, definitely hit me up because I'd love to be the guy to make it happen for you. I have people reaching out to me from all over the world thinking about relocating here, and I'd be happy to help you do that as well. You can call me, text me, shoot me an email, whatever you want to do. There's going to be some links down below. You can book a call with me. We can talk about your real estate strategy, where you want to move to, you know, like really go over all the nitty gritty, answer any questions you might have and all of that. I'm here. I'm happy to help. Tom Kustra with eXp Realty. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.
I love it when it feels like this.